When the earthquake struck, I was in a confined space, desperately calling Pablo for help. He sneered with indifference. Hazel, do you have any shame left? You're in City A on a business trip. How could an earthquake in City B affect you? Such a liar. I'm hanging up. Just as I was about to speak, a familiar, coquettish moan came through the receiver. Then it went silent, clinging to the last thread of life. I cried out for help. A beam of light broke through, and I saw Pablo's archenemy, Orion. Later, when Pablo came to find me, Orion had his arm around my soft waist, his head buried in my neck, and he provocatively said, "Looking for my girlfriend? What's up?" Chapter 1. The surrounding darkness was thick, the air stagnant, and the small glimmer of light in my hand was my only hope. Pablo's sexy voice carried a chilling indifference. Hazel, could you stop causing trouble? Your sister is still in the hospital. After making her so angry that she ended up in the hospital, you ran off to enjoy yourself in City A. You're truly wicked. What now? Yesterday, you couldn't trick me into coming, so today you're using an earthquake as an excuse. If you really don't want to live anymore, then just go ahead and die. The air was growing thinner, making it hard to breathe. Tears streamed down my face as I struggled to speak. I really am in City B. Pablo, save me, please. I didn't hurt Naomi. She framed me. Please, save me. I'm really dying. A familiar, sweet voice came through the receiver, and then there was silence. I glanced at my phone screen, showing 1% battery. Just as I was about to continue my plea for help, it died. Suddenly, the confined space was pitch black, despair creeping into my heart. Tears ran down my face as hopelessness consumed me. I quietly felt the blood flowing from my right calf, the cold slowly enveloping my entire body. Ha ha ha, cough cough. I laughed bitterly. Pablo, you promised me you would protect me for life, that you would marry me. But after my sister came back, why did you change? It was clearly a setup, but why wouldn't you believe me? Compared to my sister, am I really so unimportant? Pablo, I was a fool. I was just deluding myself. I won't cling to you anymore. I hope in the next life I never meet you again. Never meet again. Chapter 2. I lay back among the shattered debris, my mind foggy, consciousness slowly fading. So this is what it feels like to be on the brink of death? Turns out, death is also a kind of relief. I thought. Beep. Hello. Host. I am System 002. I am pleased to serve you. As long as you are willing to complete this mission, you will have the chance to be reborn. Do you agree? Reborn? Are you really willing to die just like this? No. I want to live. I agree. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard shouts above me. The voices outside grew closer. We've been searching for 5 hours. How much longer do we have to keep looking? Why is the boss making us find the second daughter of the Lin family anyway? He's usually so. Less talking, more working. If the boss wants it done, just do it. Why so much chatter? Yes. Yes. Then, the sound of cement and rubble being moved. A few minutes later, any leads? A familiar male voice asked. Not yet. I think maybe. I don't care what you think. If you haven't found her, keep looking. A harsh reprimand followed. I don't know where I found the strength, but I rasped out a few words. Help me. Save me. Suddenly, the slab above was lifted, and light flooded in. I fell into a warm embrace. The tension in my body suddenly released, and I lost consciousness. In my mind, a mechanical voice echoed. Host, congratulations on locking in your target, Orion. Please complete the mission as soon as possible, or you will face punishment. Chapter 3. Hot. So hot. I woke up from my dream. The stinging pain in my body had disappeared, replaced by a burning wave. What's happening? Host, because you've been sleeping and not progressing with the target. System 002 used some special methods to forcibly wake you up, hoping to help you complete the mission sooner. What? You're awake. How do you feel? A tall man stood by the bed, his posture commanding. I opened my blurry eyes and saw the man's face clearly, with a hoarse voice. I asked, "Was it you who saved me?" The man standing before me was none other than Pablo's archenemy, Orion. Orion was the illegitimate son of the Chin family, known for his ruthless methods and sharp business acumen. Since taking over the Chin Corporation, the group's development has been unstoppable, and in just a few years, it has rivaled the commercial giant Song family. However, for some unknown reason, this man harbored a deep hostility toward Pablo Song. He often snatched projects from the Song family, which made Pablo furious with him. Maybe because of my feelings for Pablo, I also didn't like this man. But now, does your leg still hurt? Orion moved closer, his voice lazy and nonchalant. The man was dressed in a sharp black suit, one hand in his pocket, standing casually at the bedside. A scent of cold pine wafted over, intensifying the heat in my body. "I'm so hot, Orion." I got up from the bed and suddenly threw myself into the man's arms. Orion froze for a moment, then with a playful tone, said, "What? Waking up and already throwing yourself at me?" "Hazel, I'm not Pablo. Open your eyes and see clearly." When Orion said this, he was clearly gritting his teeth, his tone icy and menacing. Another wave of heat surged through me, devouring what little willpower I had left. I grabbed the man's head and urgently kissed him. "Hazel, do you know what you're doing?" "I'm Orion. I'm not a substitute." The man's angry voice was abruptly cut off. My soft hand reached down, touching a certain hard object. "I know you're Orion," I mumbled as my lips left his cold ones for a moment. "Heh, you know? Since you've gone this far, I won't pretend to be a saint. Hazel, don't regret this. If you take me, don't think you can ever leave me." A wave of masculine hormones overwhelmed me, and I was instantly swept away in the heat. Chapter 4. Pablo. Why hasn't Hazel returned yet? It's been days without any news from her. Naomi asked softly, her face pale. "Don't mention her. A few days ago, she called me, saying there was an earthquake in City B and asking me to save her. She clearly went to City A, yet she wanted me to go to City B to find her. She's such a liar. She's been spoiled too much. She needs a lesson." Pablo mocked as he peeled an apple. "Pablo, Hazel is still young. As her sister, I don't know what to say about her actions, but I hope you don't take it to heart," Naomi said gently, coughing a few times. "Don't defend her. Look at what she's done to you. It's just an advertisement endorsement. She didn't need to take it from you. Those actors under her management have no future, and yet she has to steal her own sister's resources to give to them. She clearly doesn't care about you at all. Just thinking about her makes me angry. Enough talking. Drink some water." Pablo got up, gently handed her a glass of water, and held it to her lips in a tender manner. They looked like a couple deeply in love, completely inseparable. The phone suddenly rang. "Mr. Song." "Hello!" "The patient in room 5 is insisting on seeing Miss Lynn. We can't reach a Miss Lynn on the phone. Could you try calling her? Maybe you could come with her to visit your mother." Pablo stood up, frowning slightly. A bad feeling crept into his mind. Could Hazel really have been caught in the earthquake? He was just about to dial her number when a soft voice interrupted him. "Pablo, was that the rehabilitation hospital? Is Auntie asking for Hazel again? Is Hazel's phone still unreachable?" Pablo looked at Naomi's worried face and suddenly remembered how, a year ago, Hazel had used a similar tactic to deceive him. She had called, pretending to apologize, using his mother as an excuse to make him call her. Then she cried and said she needed him, that she would die if he didn't come, and he had actually gone. But when he arrived, he realized it had all been a setup. She had done it just to prevent him from attending Naomi's performance. And because of his sudden departure, Naomi lost her concentration and fell from the stage, leaving her bedridden for half a month. Remembering this, Pablo scoffed coldly. He thought his recent worry was utterly ridiculous. Hazel had used every trick in the book to deceive him. Even after agreeing to marry her, she remained insecure, unable to tolerate even her own sister. Maybe it's not that her phone is unreachable. Maybe she's doing it on purpose. Get back in bed. She's not like you. Your sister is full of tricks. Pablo tossed his phone onto the table, his face cold. Then, he walked out of the room, shouting, "Assistant Jiang, if anyone comes to you with news about Hazel, don't bother telling me. Naomi needs to rest." But, no buts. Am I the boss? Or are you? You are. Chapter 5. When I woke up, there was no one beside me. Scattered clothes were strewn across the floor, and my underwear had been torn to pieces. I actually slept with Orion. Hearing the sound of water flowing from the bathroom, my heart couldn't help but tremble. Orion is different from the other rich heirs in the circle. He is unpredictable, enjoying the twists and turns of the business world. Often, he can deliver a fatal blow while laughing and chatting with you. I remember Pablo once. Hiss, why can't I remember? Host. To help you complete your mission, every time you have intimate contact with the target, you will gradually forget things related to Pablo. 002 believes that for a girl who wants to completely forget a jerk, this is a very useful method. Memories slowly fade. Completely forget him? Recalling the overwhelming despair during the earthquake, my heart suddenly tightened. This is indeed a good method. I smiled with relief. What's a good method? Orion opened the door and walked out. The man was only wearing a bath towel around his waist, his 8-pack abs exposed, radiating enticing lines. Nothing, I stammered. Just as I was about to get out of bed, my legs suddenly gave way, and I fell to the ground. What's the rush? In an instant, I fell into the damp embrace of the man, his voice teasing. No, my legs, they're weak. I blushed and whispered, "Oh, was I too rough? Sorry." His tone was playfully unapologetic. I closed my eyes, recalling the information the system had provided not long ago. Suddenly, I wrapped my arms around the man's neck as he was about to pull away. Is that so? But I don't mind. Care to go another round? I challenged. Orion seemed to grit his teeth, growling softly. Miss Lin, have you become obsessed with my body? I think there's a phrase for it, can't get enough. I don't know where the strength came from, but I suddenly pushed the man onto the bed, straddling him, lifting his chin. What if I say I am? Orion lay there, like a ripe fruit ready to be picked, smiling playfully. Go ahead. I won't resist. I bit down, sinking my teeth into him, lacking experience. My actions were clumsy. A minute later, the man, flushed red all over, groaned deeply, flipping me beneath him as he pulled me into a sea of passion. Chapter 6. It took a week for Naomi's cough to finally subside. During that time, Pablo was busy taking care of her while also managing his work. He didn't spare a single thought for me, the one supposedly on a business trip. By the time he thought about returning to the Song family's old mansion, it had already been 10 days. It's been so long. Hazel should have come home by now. When has she ever stayed away for more than a week? Always so melodramatic, acting like a spoiled child. Hazel, I'm back, Pablo called out as he entered the house. Young master, you're back. Miss Lin has been gone for 10 days, and we haven't been able to reach her. Could something have happened? Aunt Chen said worriedly. She's still not back? Pablo frowned and asked. She's ignoring everyone's calls. She's really pushing me to come find her. Isn't she? She's probably been sending plenty of messages to Assistant Jiang, always flaunting our relationship, as if it's something to show off. Hazel loved dragging him into the spotlight in front of the media, her personal Weibo account filled with pictures of the two of them out and about. Every time he looked through those photos, he couldn't help but laugh. Pablo pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Which hotel is Hazel staying at in City B? Book me a flight. I'll go check on her. Mr. Song, I'm not sure. No one has mentioned anything to me about Miss Hazel recently. Assistant Jiang replied cautiously. Pablo slammed the teacup down on the table, his expression growing serious as he asked. Nothing? Hazel's informants haven't sent you any messages? Hazel often visited Song Corporation to see Pablo, and over time, she became familiar with the staff. Sometimes, when Hazel was in a bad mood, she would have an assistant send her whereabouts to Assistant Jiang. The implication was clear, he needed to go and soothe her. But this time, there was no message. Hazel, what kind of game are you playing? Pablo frowned deeply, pulling a familiar number from his blacklist and dialing it. Chapter 7. Over the past few days, as I've had intimate encounters with Orion again and again, my feelings for Pablo have diminished. The youthful love we once shared, the bitterness and helplessness of adulthood, and the despair I felt during life and death moments, all of it was fading away. Even Pablo himself was slowly vanishing from my memory. What are you thinking about? The man above me noticed my distraction. Nothing. I hummed softly. Heh. If you don't tell the truth, you'll be punished. With that, he continued what he was doing. Looking at him, I couldn't help but ask the system, what's the standard for completing the mission with Orion? Is it just my imagination? Or does he actually like me? This question seemed a bit complicated, as the system took 3 seconds to respond. Host. He likes your body, but you need to win his heart. The mission will be considered successfully completed only when you've married him. Marriage? With such a handsome, wealthy man? That doesn't sound too bad. Ring, ring, ring. The phone on the bedside table started ringing. Phone. A broken voice escaped my lips. Looks like someone's getting impatient. Orion reached over with his long arm, glanced at the phone, and handed it to me before heading to the bathroom. Someone? Who could it be? Hello, who's this? Hazel, you've got some nerve. How can you go on a business trip and stay out there for so many days? If you don't want to come back, then don't bother coming back at all. Hearing the unfamiliar and grating male voice on the other end, spewing insults, I was momentarily stunned. Realizing he was cursing at me, I retorted, who do you think you are? So what if I'm having fun? I love to play. So what? What's it to you? I'll come home whenever I feel like it. None of your business. You're crazy. Go to hell, you jerk. Then, I quickly hung up the phone and blocked the number. Phew, that felt good. Chapter 8. Pablo's face turned ashen as he stared at the number that couldn't be reached. Hazel, you've really crossed the line this time. He paced back and forth before dialing another number. Find out Hazel's whereabouts immediately. I'm bringing that wench back. And as for the artists under her, transfer them to someone else. She needs to be taught a lesson, or she'll never understand the consequences. Yes, I'll handle it right away. Assistant Jiang replied nervously. 3 minutes later, the phone rang again. Speak. Pablo's voice was filled with suppressed anger. Mr. Song, well, it's just. Stop stammering. Spit it out already. Well, Miss Lin has already returned to the city and is currently at Orion's house. Who? Say that again. His voice was chilling. Chin, Orion. Mr. Song, we're still investigating the details. Maybe there's some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? All he could think about was how green his head must be right now. Pablo's chest heaved with anger. He violently kicked over the table in front of him, his eyes bloodshot. Hazel, how dare you? Staying at that bastard's house. Orion. Pablo spat out the name through gritted teeth, his jawline tightening with the effort. The servants around him were so terrified that they didn't dare move. Time seemed to stand still. After a moment, he adjusted his tie and shouted, Butler, prepare the car. Chapter 9. After cursing someone out, I felt both physically and mentally refreshed. Get up. It's time to eat, Orion said lazily, leaning against the door frame, fully dressed. I couldn't help but admit it. This man really has a ridiculously handsome face. Underneath his tousled hair were a pair of captivating peach blossom eyes that, despite their usual coldness, were irresistibly charming, especially in moments of passion. The teardrop mole at the corner of his eye made him even more alluring. What are you staring at? Hurry up and eat, Orion instructed before turning to leave. Oh, okay. I'm coming. As I got out of bed, I couldn't help but think, damn, who's seducing who here? With a face like that, who wouldn't be drawn in? As I watched the man across from me reject a call for the 10th time, I swallowed my porridge and quickly said, why don't you answer it? It might be something important. Orion paused mid-motion at my words, then raised an eyebrow and said, You want me to answer? Agree to one condition, and remember to go along with whatever I say. I was about to ask what he meant when the call connected. A man's hysterical shouting came through the phone. Orion, you shameless bastard! How dare you steal my woman? I'm warning you, if you dare touch her, I'll fight you to the death. Hearing that familiar yet unfamiliar voice again, I frowned in disgust. This guy is so vulgar. Orion noticed my reaction, and a hint of a smile flashed in his eyes as he spoke. Oh, really? Then come on, fight to the death. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then came an enraged roar. Fuck, Orion. You actually touched her. You son of a bitch. You're shameless. Just wait. I'm going to beat you so bad your own mother won't recognize you. Orion leaned back in his chair, his collar open, revealing faint kiss marks on his collarbone. He responded with a light smile. I'll be waiting. And by the way, I don't have a mother. Click. The call ended. I stared in shock at this guy's calm and collected demeanor. Impressive. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of someone pounding on the door echoed through the room. Just play along, Orion murmured. Play along. Again? Orion wrapped his arm around me and opened the door. Pablo, what are you doing here? I asked in surprise, seeing the furious man at the door. Suddenly, I realized that the voice on the phone earlier was his. So, I can barely recognize this man's voice anymore. What am I doing here? Hazel, you're cheating by sleeping in another man's house. Why do you think I'm here? Pablo, watch your mouth. How am I cheating? Isn't it normal for a girlfriend to be at her boyfriend's house? Why are you accusing me of cheating? Orion moved behind me, tightening his grip on my waist as he spoke, his tone dripping with mockery. Girlfriend? Pablo asked, shocked. The grip on my waist tightened, and I confirmed, yes, we're in a normal relationship. As boyfriend and girlfriend. Heh, girlfriend, Hazel, you've been gone for 10 days and suddenly you're in a relationship with another man? Have you lost your mind? Or did you hit your head and get amnesia? I've been with you for 7 years, and we never even defined our relationship. And now in just 10 days, you've committed to a random guy? How could you be so desperate? Pablo shouted, slamming his fist against the wall, veins bulging on his hand. Yes, I replied firmly. What? Pablo stopped in his tracks, gritting his teeth as he asked. I said, I might have hit my head, and I got a boyfriend in 10 days. What's it to you? I stared directly at Pablo, repeating myself. I noticed a flicker of confusion in his eyes, and a sense of mockery rose within me. He probably doesn't even know what happened 10 days ago, but it doesn't matter anymore. Looking at him now, I felt nothing at all. That's a good sign. Chapter 10. Hazel, come home with me. I won't hold this against you. I'll pretend the past 10 days never happened. You were just being playful. That's all. Pablo closed his eyes, trying to suppress his anger, and spoke with a facade of magnanimity. What do you think you are? Saying you won't hold it against me? Who gave you the right? I retorted. Hazel! You, Pablo, seeing my determined stance, lost his composure and lunged at me, but before he could reach me, Orion kicked him to the ground. Mr. Song, you'd better stop pestering us. It's quite disgusting, Orion said coldly. With that, he pulled me back inside and slammed the door shut. Through the crack in the door, I caught a glimpse of Pablo's disheveled face, and a wave of satisfaction surged through me. I received a call from the rehabilitation hospital. The hospital said that Aunt Song was asking to see me. After my parents passed away, Aunt Song was the one who cared for me the most. Every time I went on a business trip, she would carefully remind me, showing me the love of a mother. But in recent years, her health had declined, and she often needed to stay in the hospital. So, after taking the call, I headed straight there. Hazel, you finally came. Why was your business trip so long this time? Auntie missed you so much. Aunt Song, dressed in her hospital gown, smiled warmly as she held my hand tightly. At that moment, Pablo walked in with a hot water bottle, his face cold as if someone owed him billions. Aunt Song noticed his expression and couldn't help but scold him. Look at your face. Hazel is here, And you don't even smile. Be careful, or some other boy might steal her away. Bang! The water bottle was slammed down on the table, making a loud noise. What are you doing? Can't you put it down more gently? If you can't do it, then don't. Aunt Song scolded. Hazel, did he scare you? Don't pay attention to him. I heard you went to Cydia recently. There was an earthquake in the neighboring city B. Did it affect you? Aunt Song asked, turning her concern to me after scolding her son. It's fine. Aunt Song, you just focus on getting better and don't worry about me. I reassured her. After our conversation, Pablo followed me out of the room. As soon as we reached the corner, he forcefully pushed me against the wall. A sharp pain shot through my wrist. I struggled to break free, but couldn't. Pablo, let go of me. Pablo acted as if he hadn't heard me, lowering his head slightly, coaxing me. Hazel, come home, okay? Orion isn't good enough for you. Don't let him fool you. Forget about him. We've been childhood sweethearts, growing up together. How can one man take you away so easily? There was a trace of unwillingness in Pablo's eyes, as if he was convinced that everything was Orion's fault. A mocking smile tugged at my lips as I asked, Pablo, don't you feel disgusted saying that? One man took me away? And what about you? What did you do? Didn't you also get taken away by another woman? You were the one who broke our vows first. A flash of panic crossed Pablo's eyes, and he tried to defend himself, feigning calm. Hazel, don't accuse me of things. I was just taking extra care of her because she's your sister. Oh, I didn't mention Naomi, did I? Pablo froze for a few seconds after I said this. Then, realizing the implication of my words, his face showed irritation, and he angrily punched the wall. He explained harshly, Hazel, she's your sister. How could you think that way about us? I was only concerned for her because she saved my life. Is that so wrong? You know, I sneered, cutting him off. Recalling the overwhelming despair buried deep inside, my heart felt dead. Oh, well, Orion saved my life too. So isn't it fair for me to be with him? As the old saying goes, when someone saves your life, you should repay them with your own. The anger on Pablo's face suddenly vanished, replaced by shock. What do you mean? When did he save you? He couldn't have. Suddenly, Pablo's face changed dramatically, turning deathly pale. Chapter 11. I tilted my head up, looking at him coldly, my expression calm. Pablo licked his lips before speaking, his voice hoarse. 10 days ago. Did it really happen? Yes, I confirmed. After my response, the hope in his eyes shattered instantly, replaced by despair. He spoke softly. Hazel, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I thought it was fake. I thought you were trying to deceive me. I let out a cold laugh, cutting him off again, striking right at the heart of the matter. Pablo, stop making excuses. You keep saying we're childhood sweethearts, but what have you actually done? You jokingly agreed to marry me, and then turned around and flirted with Naomi, when I was buried underground, clinging to my last hope and begging you for help. You cut off my last escape, in a life-or-death situation. Even if it had been a lie, you didn't even bother to check if it was true. In the end, Pablo, it was you who was heartless. It was you who betrayed what we had. With each accusation, Pablo retreated, his face showing utter despair. The light from outside cast shadows on him, making him look like a motionless statue. I easily broke free from his grasp, walking towards the exit, and then turned back. Pablo, I don't like you anymore. The Hazel who chased after you, who loved you, is dead. Pablo, I'm going to forget you completely and start a new life. So, let's not see each other again. Pablo's attempt to take a step forward froze in place. Oh, by the way, just a friendly reminder, are you sure Naomi really saved you? Maybe you never considered that you might have mistaken her for someone else. Seeing his face change dramatically, I ignored him further, with his desperate pleas echoing behind me. I walked away with my head held high. Chapter 12. After that day, I spent all my time with Orion. As time passed, my feelings for Pablo completely disappeared. Occasionally, I'd see him on TV interacting intimately with other women, and I'd feel nothing but boredom. During this time, Assistant Jiang called me several times, both subtly and directly trying to persuade me to return. Miss Lin, the boss loves you. He just doesn't know how to express it. These days, the boss has been drinking himself into a stupor, calling out your name. He's full of regret and self-blame for what happened during the earthquake. After hearing the same lines a few times, I decisively blocked him. I didn't want anything interfering with my mission. 2 months later, I finally made progress in my mission to win over Orion. One morning, that man told me he loved me, with his head buried in my neck. He whispered softly, both tender and seductive. I was ecstatic when I suddenly received an unexpected phone call. It was Naomi, my elder sister. In the cafe, the room was filled with the enticing aroma of coffee. Hazel, what did you say to Pablo? Naomi, sitting across from me, stared at me with eyes full of resentment and hatred. Of course. I told him how you took my place. What? Is Pablo giving you trouble? Aren't you the best at deceiving people with those misty eyes of yours? Didn't work this time. Huh? I sipped my coffee slowly, speaking calmly. 5 years ago, our parents died in a car accident while on their way to find Naomi, who had been lost. After that, I brought my sister back home. I treated her with all my heart. She said she wanted to be a star, so as her agent, I used my connections to pave the way for her. She said she had never experienced the love of elders, so I took her to Pablo's parents to gain their affection. She said she had no friends, so I brought her into my circle of friendship with Pablo. But I never imagined that my sister would be such an ingrate. Anything I liked, she wanted to take. Not only that, but she also slandered me in front of others, even though I was the one who saved Pablo from drowning. While I ran to get help, she claimed she was the one who saved him, even though she called Pablo back. She played the victim, implying that I had hurt her on purpose, even though she refused an endorsement because the location was too remote. She turned around and accused me of stealing it to give to my own artists. You, Hazel, how could you get Pablo so easily? He's mine. Don't even think about taking him, Naomi shouted, visibly upset by my words, almost jumping out of her seat. Oh, I'm giving him to you. He's just a rotten apple anyway. Who would want him? I replied sarcastically, before she could lose control. I continued speaking. Naomi, I've never understood, what grudge do you have against me that makes you hate me so much? Upon hearing this, the woman, dressed in a delicate white floral dress, smoothed her hair and suddenly smiled. Because I'm the protagonist, and you're just a supporting character. Only I deserve someone as magnificent as Pablo. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, we would have already been living a happy life. Just recently, he was so caring towards me, but yesterday, he suddenly came to question me, broke a lot of things, and canceled all my endorsement deals. It was you ruined my life. I looked at the woman, who seemed to be losing her mind, and couldn't help but find it laughable. I think you've been acting too much. You need to go home and get your head checked. And by the way, I don't care about Pablo. If you want him, go ahead and fight for him. But stop using such dirty tricks. It's really disgusting. A tall, slender figure grabbed Naomi's hand just as she was about to throw her coffee at me and then forcefully pushed her away. Chapter 13. You dare touch what's mine? It seems you're tired of living. Orion stood beside me, glaring coldly at Naomi, as if she were already dead. Naomi's face changed the moment she saw Orion. As Pablo's archenemy, she was well aware of who he was, back when she first entered the entertainment industry and hadn't yet gained Pablo's trust. It was Hazel who helped her out on various occasions. Eager to rise quickly in the industry, she turned to Orion, hoping to latch onto his influence. But before she could even get close, she was thrown out by his bodyguards. Remembering this, Naomi looked up at me, sneering. Hazel, so you're not fighting me for Pablo anymore because you've already found a new man? I was about to retort when Orion spoke up. What a filthy mouth. If you don't want to be thrown out, get out now. I'm not exactly a nice guy. Orion casually wiped his hand with a tissue where Naomi had touched him, his expression dark and full of irritation. There was no doubting the credibility of his words. Naomi bit her lip, grabbed her bag, shot me a vicious glare, and fled in disgrace. Wow, Orion, you're so cool. I praised him, stars practically shining in my eyes. Is that so? How sweet your little mouth is. Let me taste it, Orion said, pulling my head closer and kissing me. My eyes widened in shock. This is out in public. It was as if Orion could read my mind. He covered my eyes and whispered, "Focus." The soothing music in the cafe played softly as I slowly closed my eyes. Chapter 14. A week later. I arranged for a moving company to transfer my belongings from the Song family's house back to my own place. I used to cling to Pablo, especially enjoying spending time at the Song residence. Aunt Song adored me and had even set aside a room for me to stay in. I was shameless enough to spend half the month living there. Over time, that room became filled with my things. A few days ago, Aunt Song called to ask why I hadn't been staying at their house anymore. Only then did I realize that I still had a lot of belongings there that I hadn't moved. After notifying Aunt Lou at the villa, the movers delivered everything to my apartment just as it had been. Ding! The elevator arrived on my floor, and the doors opened. I looked up to see several large boxes, and Pablo. "What are you doing here?" I asked, frowning. I had barely taken a few steps. Suddenly, Pablo lunged at me, pushing me against the wall and fiercely pressing his lips to mine. The smell of alcohol hit me as his lips bit down on mine with force. Unable to break free, I quickly lifted my knee, aiming for a weak spot. "Oof, Hazel!" Pablo staggered back a step. "Pablo, are you insane? Be careful, or I'll report you for assault," I said with disgust, wiping my lips. Pablo seemed to sober up a bit, his eyes reddening. "Hazel, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I didn't mean it. Do you remember? You used to say you wouldn't marry anyone but me. You love me. I can't live without you. You know that. We've been together for so long. How can you just stop loving me?" Pablo pulled a small box out of one of the large boxes and held it up to me. "Look, these are the love letters you wrote to me. All 10 of them express your feelings for me. And these 1,000 paper cranes you folded for me." "Anne," I rubbed my aching head and cut him off. "Enough, Pablo. I've already told you. I don't love you anymore. Can't you understand plain language?" It was as if Pablo was lost in his own thoughts, still shouting, "No, you love me, not anyone else. Orion isn't worthy." His voice was cold as ice, filled with obsession and madness. "Oh, are you talking about me?" Orion appeared out of nowhere, wearing a long trench coat, exuding an air of authority. He walked over to my side, and I asked, "Do you have a lighter?" "Sure." Orion glanced at the contents of the box, raising an eyebrow. A blue flame flickered to life as I grabbed a handful of letters and set them alight, one by one. No, Pablo tried to stop me, but Orion blocked him. He screamed, struggled, and fought. But by the time I had burned all the letters and the paper cranes, his voice had weakened. He seemed like a man drowning, engulfed in suffocating despair. "Pablo, I'll say it one more time. I don't love you anymore. Now, to me, you're not even worth a stranger." While I was burning these things, I didn't feel the slightest bit sad. I even realized how stupid I was before. To think I actually fell for someone like you. Pablo broke free from Orion's hold and rushed to the trash bin, staring at it in disbelief for a minute. Just as Orion was moving the last box inside, Pablo suddenly looked up, fixing his gaze on him. His eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty chill. "Orion, Chin, I swear I'll make sure you die a miserable death." Chapter 15. Since that day, Pablo has gone completely insane, launching an all-out war against the Chin Corporation. What used to be a covert rivalry was now out in the open. He began stealing clients, snatching up properties, and even bribing the media to spread negative news about the Chin Corporation. "I'm sorry, Orion. I didn't expect Pablo to go this crazy. Your company." I looked at Orion's tired face, feeling deeply guilty. I couldn't even focus on the progress of my mission. "What are you thinking? Do you think your man is that easy to defeat? Trust me, very soon, this will all be over." Orion gently caressed my face, speaking softly. "At that time, I didn't fully understand what he meant, but soon, I had my answer. Half a month later, the Song Corporation ran into financial trouble. It was said that one of their key projects, which they had invested heavily in, encountered technical issues, requiring a large influx of capital, but the financial hole was too deep. Within a week, the Song Corporation declared bankruptcy. At the same time, a video surfaced showing Pablo threatening competitors, bribing officials, and engaging in other illegal activities to gain business advantages. The police swiftly arrested him. As for Naomi, without Pablo's support, her career in the entertainment industry began to crumble. Rumors spread about her bullying other actresses and stealing roles, and even her own company considered blacklisting her. It was truly satisfying to see. Chapter 16. What are you looking at? Orion asked, holding me close. Some very satisfying news, I replied, still scrolling through the latest updates on the Song Corporation, a grin spreading across my face. So happy? Orion quickly kissed my lips, chuckling softly. I didn't take my eyes off the screen, nodding in agreement. Then let me make you even happier, Orion said, gently turning my face towards him. He stared into my eyes, serious as he spoke. Let's get married. Huh? Married? Am I hallucinating? Every time I had subtly asked if he had any plans for marriage, he would always tell me to wait. Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. Isn't that classic Playboy talk? At first, I was afraid that if I didn't complete the mission, I would face some kind of punishment. But as time passed, I realized that there was no such punishment, and even the 002 system rarely appeared. Gradually, I let go of my worries. As I looked at the bright red marriage certificate in my hand, I couldn't help but call out to the system. This time, the long-absent system reappeared. Congratulations, host, on completing the mission. I hope you and your beloved will live happily ever after. The 002 system sounded particularly excited. Was this mission too easy? I hesitated. I felt like I had just coasted through and succeeded. Host, how can you say that? It was your strong abilities and aggressive approach that made it happen. But I won't linger, host. I'm off to find 001. Bye-bye. And with that, the system cut off our connection. Is that so? I muttered unconsciously. What is it? My love? Focus, Orion said, noticing my thoughtful expression. A shadow of something dark flickered in his eyes as he lowered his head to kiss me. Under the clear blue sky, a pair of lovers embraced passionately in the morning light. Extra 1, Orion. I am Orion. The first time I met Hazel was in a rundown alleyway. I hadn't eaten for days at that point. She was wearing a beautiful princess dress and walked over to me, offering a piece of bread. That was the most delicious food I had tasted since my mother passed away, and I had been living on the streets. 10 years later, when I saw her again, she had already forgotten me. Her eyes were always fixed on Pablo, that hypocritical man. I was insanely jealous, but there was nothing I could do, until one day, a system called 001 suddenly appeared in my mind. It told me that it and its brother, 002, were on their first mission. They didn't want to be separated and wanted to complete an easy task so they could go back home smoothly. So, they set their sights on Hazel and me. At first, they wanted to create a scenario where I would be the devoted second male lead, pursuing the female protagonist, Hazel. But Hazel only had eyes for Pablo, and Pablo, being the child of destiny, meant that I didn't even have a chance to get close to her. I began to resent the system, feeling like my life was being controlled. But then, an unexpected earthquake led to a new mission where the female protagonist would pursue the second male lead and completely defeat the scumbag. At the same time, I was able to save Hazel. At that moment, I was incredibly grateful that I hadn't driven those annoying systems away. However, I made a deal with them. Once the mission was completed, they wouldn't contact us again. Fortunately, those two systems kept their word and left quickly. Now, it's time for our happy life, and I'm really looking forward to it. Extra 2, Naomi. I am Naomi. After returning to the Lin family, every time I saw Hazel's carefree smile, I felt a deep jealousy. reflecting on these past 20 years. I suffered outside while she enjoyed endless love and care at home. Why? So, I decided to take everything from Hazel. As this thought grew stronger, one day, a system called Heroine's Strategy approached me. It told me that I was the true female lead and that Hazel, the supporting character, had stolen everything from me. If I wanted to live the life I desired, I had to fight for it, to take it. So, that's what I did. In the process, I experienced the thrill of being on top. But just when everything was about to succeed, my system disappeared, and Orion approached me. He asked me to put a project right under Pablo's nose, promising me 10 billion. I thought it was simple, so I did it. But I didn't expect that this project would push the Song Corporation into crisis and lead to its bankruptcy. Only then did I realize I had been deceived. At the same time, my system vanished without a trace. With the scandal exposed, my life began to spiral into chaos. The dream of being the heroine was shattered.